So we'd like to welcome everybody back to Raised on Real Estate. Greg Angello with you in the house again on an absolutely gorgeous day. It is June 8th, 2022, and we hope that you are all doing well out there. And we appreciate everyone for coming back on the RORE platform. We had a really great time last week with Kathy Laucius. Kathy is with The Time Is Now Fitness, and we had her last week, and we had a really great episode about that, and we have her back in the house today. We're going to talk a little bit more about her book. But as we emphasized before, we're going to talk about motivation and how is she able to not only motivate herself, but also her clients. Those are getting started in the gym. Those are getting started in exercise. We know how difficult that it can be. Going to bring her back into the podcast world. Kathy Laucius, thanks for coming back to us again. Great to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Greg. Looking forward to this episode. Really excited.
Awesome. So how's your week been? What's been going on?
Week's been good. Kids are, well, not my kids, but just watching everybody get out of school. My kids are college now and post-college. So everything's going good. You can start to feel that summer vibe. Gym is picking up even a little bit more. So it's a good time.
And what's been going on as far as with the gym since the podcast? Are people lined up out the door now coming in?
Really are. And I don't know if it's a combination of people getting a better handle on their health just because they know that they need to take care of themselves, or if it was the social aspect. And we do still have a lot of people in the area, I can tell, who are working from home. And we received a lot of new members just because they're no longer working downtown. And so they don't need to find a facility downtown. They live in the area and now they just run up at lunchtime. They can make it work early morning. But like I had mentioned last week, we're busier than we were before March of 2020.
Well, that's good. And so just so people will remember, where are you located in the Charlotte area?
Yes, I train out of Metro Fitness Club over on Selwyn Avenue. As I had mentioned before last week, I also have my own training app. And so for those who think that, as far as locally or wherever, all over the country, all over the world, if they can't obviously be in Charlotte, I can still help them online. So that's available as well.
When you mentioned that last week, I didn't really touch upon that too much. Can you describe what that fitness app is like and how people can download it on their phone?
Sure. So actually the app works by invitation only. So someone has to reach out to me and then I send the link, and it can be downloaded off of your Android or your Apple Play stores. And then what happens is the client will fill out a consultation form, and then we set up a day and a time to chat. Either we can do that on the phone or Zoom, whatever works for them. And basically the way the app works is that you have everything there at your fingertips. I can provide all of the exercise routines. Everything has video demonstration to go with it. Can also handle meal planning, calorie counting. We can link their Apple Watches, their MyFitnessPal, food logs, things like that, all to the app. So it's just one turnkey solution. I provide to-do lists every day for the client. We do goal setting. It's really a great turnkey solution. And there's different tiers of pricing. And that information is available on my website at thetimeisnowfitness.com. If you click on the online coaching tab, all of the information about the app is there.
So you probably have people that don't even live in the Charlotte area that are on that app. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes, I do.
That's awesome. So people that are listening around the country, well, I don't know if I can hire Kathy to be my personal fitness, in the Charlotte area, but you can actually be their fitness instructor on an app, right?
Yeah. And, for a lot of people, especially now is a good time, Greg, because you do have more business travel picking up. That I'm definitely seeing. And now that, the kids being at home over the summer, or I have clients that are even my personal training clients in the gym, but they will be using my app. While I have one of my clients, he'll be at the beach for a month. And this is what he did last summer. He has his app. And I send him his workouts on a weekly basis. He's got equipment at at the beach, and that's how he stays accountable to the process. And that's, really the majority of this, making this work and staying motivated, which we'll get to, is staying accountable to the process.
A lot of that, though, would have to be based on accountability, because if it's a virtual workout session, you're not there. You can only go by the information that they're putting in on the app, right? So like, how much time are they spending working out? What sort of workout are they doing? So they have to actually, are they putting the information in on the app, and then you get an account of what they're doing? And so what happens if they're like hanging out at Taco Bell having a burrito supreme, and they're on there, and you're like, how's that workout going? They're having a burrito supreme, and they're just, give me a second, Kathy. I'll be there in a second.
Right. So what happens is, based on the client's goals, based on all of the workouts are custom. They're all based on what kind of equipment they have access to. Will they be visiting a hotel gym? Will they be at home? Do they have access to a full facility? Obviously, what type of fitness level they are. And so some of these clients, I've never met before. I haven't worked with in the past. So once we have that consultation and I get an idea, all of the workouts are custom, and all of the workouts come with, like I said, the video demonstration that they can follow along. And once they complete that workout, they can rate the workout. And I also see how much time it took for them to do it. So all of that information does come back to me and helps me, again, keep the client accountable.
Okay. Awesome. So we're going to have that information for you again on the platform. I know we had your website listed when we posted this, the last podcast that we did. We had it up there, and we also have it on YouTube now. So we have all that information. You go to Raised on Real Estate on YouTube, and we have all that for you. We have all Kathy's information, and I really like that app process. It's really cool. It's a better outreach. You can have better connections. You could have more clients that way than just people trying to be in the area, which is really cool, because obviously you're not like franchising, your fitness business, brick and mortar, right?
Right. Again, back to that motivation. For a lot of clients, they don't have, their schedule does not allow them to have to lock in a day and a time. So this way, flip side of that is that the client can perform the workout on their time, right? They can do it at 5 o'clock in the morning. They can do it at midnight, whatever works for them. They are not accountable to a day and a time. Obviously, it's going to be less expensive than in-person sessions. I do have a few people who jump on and go, oh, I don't know if I can make this happen on my own, but I do my very best to keep them accountable. We do weekly phone calls. It really just depends on how much the client wants me involved. I can either visit with them once a week, twice a month, whatever works best for them.
Okay, so they're basically going to be telling you like what they feel their results are, right? Unless you take the information from the app. Is it like one of those cardio things or step things that you're able to see what they're doing on their side?
No, but for most people, I think I find, Greg, 8 out of 10 people have an Apple Watch, right? Mm-hmm. So with them being able to hook their Apple Watch up to my app, or some still use a Fitbit. You can link both of those to my app. It has that capability. So yes, I can see, besides the workouts that I'm prescribing, I can see the additional work that they're doing.
Okay, awesome. All right, so we're going to get into now what we were discussing last week, but we're going to talk a little bit more about exercise and motivation. Just to recap, Kathy's book that she put out there that you can find on Amazon and other places, The Time Is Now, 7 Ways to Get Off the Diet Roller Coaster and Get On With Your Life. And so when we were talking last week about what it is like for people who are starting to have to change their diet and how difficult it can be, like we talked about, what's in your refrigerator, right? And I will just tell you personally, even from the podcast that we did, because I've been like a roller coaster myself, no sugar, back on sugar. And when you have a 6-year-old, he has all that candy laying around, I sort of like, Isaac, where'd you put the candy? I'm not telling you, Daddy. So I have to go find it. But I have actually been this entire week resolved to stay away from it. because I'm putting it in my mind that it's not good for me and I don't want it and I want to change. Okay. So I have on my Facebook, like probably a lot of people do, and those that are listening, you probably have pictures of yourself. If you have those memories that pop up on your Facebook, I actually have one for about, I think it's 12 years ago when I was living in Michigan and I was up in the Frankenmuth area, and there was a picture of me holding an ice cream. and I'm like, man, that should have been my motivation right there, because I'm not that person anymore. Okay. Now I've dropped close to 47 pounds and I'm still working. Thank you. And I'm still working on, I think I've got another 7 pounds that I want to go, because a lot of the clothes that I have in my closet now, they don't fit me. And in fact, the event that we did last night with Brock's event here in Charlotte, I was wearing a sport coat that I purchased in 1982. And it's a really nice jacket. It was expensive. It was in a great men's store that they don't have anymore, but it fits. Now, I'm telling you, for the last 10 years, I couldn't wear it.
Wow.
So for me, that is my motivation, because I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back to that picture of Greg in the ice cream cone. Okay?
Right.
So let me ask you a question, because you went through this, right? Like you said, you went to a point in your life where you had all this weight that you wanted to get rid of. And so even though you said you had a bit of a ha-ha moment, so how do you now try to maintain that? Because I know this is your business, but do you fall into those lulls where you wake up in the morning, you're going, oh my goodness, man, I really just, I want to hit the snooze button. I don't want to go to the gym.
Mm-hmm. And that's an excellent question, because this is what I tell people all the time. Listen, I don't wake up every day just dying to work out and sit down to a lean protein with my vegetable and, blah, blah, blah. I don't wake up every day with those thoughts. I mean, there's a lot of days that I do, but I don't feel like that every single day. And there's a couple of things that I do tell myself if I'm having a moment. First of all, I always say, when's the last time you went to the gym and then left the gym and got in your car or walked home, what have you, and said, geez, I wish I hadn't done that? Never do you walk out of the gym going, I wish I hadn't done that. You always feel great when you're done. And the same thing with the food. I don't think, I think most people finish a crappy meal and say to themselves, I really wish I hadn't done that. I shouldn't have done that. I know better. You're having that out of body experience where you're watching yourself from the other side of the room, asking yourself, well, why are you eating this? But when's the last time you got up from the table after eating a really good, healthy meal and said, I wish I hadn't done that? My thought process has always been, instead of focusing on the task that's right in front of you, how about you focus on what that end game is going to look like? And obviously, it's easier said than done. Obviously, you're going to have those moments where you don't do that. But that is my best advice, is to really focus on not what's right at hand, but to focus on the end game. And we have to do that. As I say, fitness just correlates, and health and fitness and all these goals to me just correlate with life in general. This is what we have to do with lots of different things.
So getting back to what you just said, when you were going through this process, who was helping you to stay motivated other than yourself?
Well, I had a couple of different personal trainers that, again, would keep me accountable in the gym. But really, other than that, nobody was keeping me accountable but myself. But as I touched on last week, for the first time, Greg, did not throw in the towel after a couple of weeks. And I didn't let one bad meal turn into a bad day, turn into a bad month, turn into a bad year. Once I started seeing results, I was actually even more motivated to keep going. Now, and then something that we can talk about at some point is self-sabotage, which happens to everyone. I don't care how motivated it happened to me. It can happen to everyone. So that's a sort of a different component about, you're going along and you're seeing results and then you do something stupid. But again, instead of focusing on what has just happened in front of you, it was for me learning, okay, I'm not going to let the ice cream turn into, a sundae turn into a buffet by the end of the day.
Okay.
Where I was just going to have twice as much work to do.
That falls into that statement that you just made about self-sabotage. So those that have the book are going to get the book. That's in chapter 6, right? So these are the things that you start discussing in that chapter in relationship to challenges.
Right.
Planning.
Right.
So the one thing that you brought up, the beginning of it, was planning for plateaus. So what's a plateau and why does that happen?
Sure. So a plateau is basically, when you get to a period of time where there's little or no change and, regardless of the activity and the progress that you've made. And it can be one of the most frustrating aspects to this. In fact, I was even going to mention when you said you've lost 40, you said you'd like to lose about another 7. And I was going to remind you, those will probably be the hardest 7 you will lose. Because you've gotten to such a point where you've changed your body and now your body does want to plateau. And this is where things will have to be shaken up a little bit more. And it's probably not going to happen. It's not going to happen as quickly as it did in the beginning, especially depending on how much weight you lose. So yeah. So at some point we all plateau, your body gets used to it. And then that's where you have to say, well, I didn't lose any weight this week, so forget it. I'm going to have the ice cream. Well, that's not going to get you anywhere. That's just going to give you more work to do. So how do you stay motivated during those times? And so, yeah, a couple of the things that I hit on is no matter what, keep your nutrition at the forefront. Whatever you do, if you decide, I don't want to go to the gym today, fine, don't go to the gym. But don't skip out on your nutrition. Keep making that a priority. And then, there's some other tricks you can do. And I definitely go into that in the book. Sometimes what happens is our body gets used to a certain level of exercise, and then you have to change it up. For example, cardio, which is so frustrating for people because cardio is the one thing that everybody gravitates toward. They don't necessarily want to lift the dumbbells. They don't understand how important resistance training is. So they go to the gym and they just get on the treadmill and run like a bunny. And that's what I did. Walk, whatever. But, eventually your body, that is the very first thing your body will adapt to is your cardio routine. So don't start out in the beginning doing a crazy amount, because the more you do, the more you just have to keep doing. That's why you see people who run marathons who may not look like they're in optimal shape because their body got used to that training program. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so, because I'm trying to understand that as well. Because I do cardio and I do the treadmill. I try to stay on a certain routine. So are you saying that if people who don't want to lift weights, and for whatever reason, I mean, even people that are older, right? There could be people that are listening that are in their 60s, 70s. And there are some people at the gym that I go to that are older than me. And I can tell them that they're seniors and they are on the bike or, like the stationary bike or the treadmill. They're getting their exercise. I guess is the question I want to ask you. Is it like you have to change if you're in your car and you've got the speed control on, right? You got it on auto, whatever, and you're going at 65 miles an hour and you don't change it. You just got your cruise control on. That's the word I was looking for. So are you saying that to get a better result on the cardio, you have to get off your cruise control and make it either more difficult during that period?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. But don't put all your eggs in one basket when it comes to the cardio as well. So I always describe fitness for me, Greg, like a triangle, the shape of a triangle. And at the top point, I have nutrition. And then on both sides of the triangle, you have strength on one side, resistance training, you have cardio on the other. And while I do believe you need all 3 points to make the perfect shape, you have to make sure that you're giving each point the proper amount of time. And so if all you're doing is cardio and you're not adding certain things in, let me circle back to if you are hitting a plateau, and this is where you have to say, okay, I've hit a plateau. Okay, but are you being 100%, or let's just say 80, 90% honest about your nutrition? Okay, maybe not. Maybe that's where you need to tighten up. Okay, well, is all you're doing resistance training, you're not throwing any cardio in? Maybe you need a little cardio. Or just the flip side, if all you're doing is cardio, might be time to start working on some strength training moves to help build muscle. All of them work together.
So that makes sense. So you need to mix it up. You just can't stay in one area of exercise to start to conform your body to, to lose weight into the shape that you're looking for. Okay.
That's where you just do when you hit the plateau, which again, everybody does. Your body's not going to, like I mentioned last week, one exercise session, isn't going to make you a fitness model. Okay. One healthy meal isn't going to change your scale by 10 pounds in a day. It's sticking with that process. But when you feel that process is failing you, and I had this come up with a client a couple of months ago, and she was just, she's busy mom. She's got 4 kids at home. She makes time to come to the gym. Her husband is her biggest cheerleader. And she said, Kathy, I'm concerned, I went on a vacation and I just didn't feel up to par as what I thought I was. She admitted, she knows that while she's putting the work in the gym, she has not been doing the behind the scenes work in the nutrition. I said, we just need to regroup and let's make that the top priority now. And that's where I was leading, is when you have these moments like the plateaus or life just comes up in general, it's that self-sabotage. It's just that falling off the wagon. As I talk about in the book, you could ask 10 different people why they fall off the wagon and get 10 different answers.
Mm-hmm.
So
right.
It really just depends on, but how do you get past that? It just goes back to that head. I spent a lot of years beating myself up. And once you can just say, okay, I fell off the wagon and I need to figure out a way to refocus. And for me, again, it was, I'm not going to let one bad meal turn into a bad day, turn into a bad month. And then here I am 365 days later doing the same thing over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's important too, because if people keep going and going and going and they don't see any results, then eventually they're going to give up because they don't see the result. But that's really the issue. And this is a very important point for those that are listening who are trying to figure out, like, okay, how do I stay motivated? And one of the ways to look at it from the mindset is like what we talk about in what we do in our business and even in real estate. We've talked about this on the Mindset Motivation Call. You're going to plant a seed. You're not going to expect in a day or a week for that seed that you planted to be a tree bearing fruit within that period of time. With apple trees, first, it takes 2 years to even get into the position they're even going to start bearing any fruit. And the truth is, most apple trees can't do it alone. They have to have another tree with them. There is something about the apple trees where 2 apple trees together, the way that they're working, they are better with 2 than they are with 1. I think that's very important even with the exercise and that's kind of like the point I'm getting to, because in our business, for us to stay motivated, we try to have someone that's going to be an accountability partner, all right? Someone who's going to call us, someone's going to motivate us and say, are you going to do this today? Are you going to do that today? And sometimes push us, because you need to have that nudge and you need to have that push, even like when I don't want to make 25 calls today.
And I think most people, that's the hardest part too, Greg, because we do know that, certain things aren't just going to happen overnight. Keeping that mindset in the forefront, that really trying to focus on where do I want to be? And, that goes along with setting those short-term and those long-term goals. Where do I want to be 3 months from now, 6 months from now? Don't set out and say, I'm going to lose 25 pounds by July 4th, because I hate to break it to you, it's not going to happen. Starting out with those little small goals. And like you say, what do you do for your business? You need to sit down and make a certain amount of a certain amount of calls. I know I need to eat this way or exercise that way. And you know what you need to do. And you're focusing on the end task. You're not focusing on, oh God, I don't want to sit down and make these calls, because you don't know what's going to happen at the end of those 25 calls, right? I always say, I call it throwing something up against the wall and seeing what sticks. You have to do that.
Right, exactly. Let me just put the brakes on this one, because I do want to come back to the motivation. But the other thing I want to talk to you about is when you're talking to people about if they're coming in for a consultation and if you ask them, okay, so what is your diet like? Because I was sort of thinking about this even from the last podcast and even really before that. I think that it may be true that we're probably the only industrialized nation who really puts a lot of marketing into food.
Yeah.
How many billions of dollars are spent in marketing food? stuff that's going to come to your door. Get on the special shakes, have the shake in the morning, have this in the afternoon. All these prepared foods that are done for you for all these companies out there that are promoting their so-called lose weight diet prepared meals. In your history of dealing with people, have you really noticed that if someone who's on, and I don't really want to mention some of them out there, it doesn't really matter. I'm not here to promote them, but I'm sure we all know that there's a lot of companies out there where you get your meals sent to your door and all those other things. Have you actually seen that those are a benefit to those type of foods as sticking to a more natural, healthy food diet?
The only thing that I believe that type of program does for you, because I've done several of them, and you're right, we all know what they are, and I did 2 of them, to be honest with you. The only thing I believe that they teach you, well, they don't teach you anything except they portion out your meals and you don't have to think about it. That's such a good question, because that goes back to, again, a lot of where I think people get lost in the process is they don't want to think about it. To have those meals just show up, they don't really know why they're eating a certain maybe mix of foods. I know that they try to put the protein in and all that, but really I call them portion control for dummies. You got all the computer for dummies. You got all these, all those books, right? I call it portion control for dummies, because you don't have to think about it, but it's not necessarily teaching you why you need to put certain foods in your body and what those foods will do for you and what the outcome is. It's not teaching you anything. And so that's why you do see a lot of people who obviously you're going to lose the weight initially, because it clearly less calories than what you're taking in. You probably dropped some of the sugar and some of the different things in order to just eat these foods. So yeah, you'll see results in the beginning, but I see very few people who can keep it off.
Basically what's happening is you're on a timed eating system, right? Isn't that true? Like you have some sort of a schedule that comes with the food, because I've never tried them before. So I don't know what they're like. So is there sort of like a time schedule where you have to eat this meal at this time of the day, and at this time of the day you either have a snack, or then at this time of the day then you have this meal. So you're basically always working on a food calendar. Is that kind of like how it is?
The last time I did either one of these programs, again, I did 2 of them. That was back in my 20s. So it's been a long time, but I don't recall necessarily a time schedule as much as they just sent you, oh, looky here, here's your breakfast, lunch, and dinner and 2 snacks. And then you were encouraged to, eat the food, not to skimp out on anything. You sort of make that time schedule on your own, but you are given breakfast, lunch, dinner, 2 snacks. Yeah, maybe you're getting an extra protein shake, something like that.
See, now that would be a problem for me. And I'm going to tell you why. So, because if somebody sends me a box of food and it's got all this stuff in there and I'm not self-disciplined, I'm just going to eat everything that's in a box. I don't care if it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner. If I've got 4, and there's got the pasta in there, you got the shakes, you've got the desserts, they got everything. I'm just going to eat it, because we know that people tend to overeat. They do. They can go and they can order all this extra stuff when they go through the drive-thru, and they eat it all at one time. So when do they portion out their food if they're not disciplined?
Yeah, and that's why I say it's just portion control I'm not calling anybody a dummy. I'm just
You know
what I'm saying? And it's just that, so you don't have to think about it. But also too, like we spoke about last week about the difference between, say, your body knows how to process an apple. Your body does not. It does process. I don't think it doesn't prefer the 100 calorie goldfish snack bag or pretzels or whatever that talk about a marketing ploy. My God, these 100 calorie snack bags. But again, think about how a lot of these foods are made. They're made in a factory so they can ship all over the country. Oh, gross. And so, yeah, that may be portioned out so you don't, because trust me, these portions aren't that big. Again, try to think about it from the angle of how these foods are made. And your body was just not designed to eat foods like that.
Okay. So that makes a lot of sense. If you're looking at it from a health, nutritional point of view. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even the Weight Watcher entrees, the lean cuisines. I mean, again, I understand that if you're used to eating huge Subway sandwich every day for lunch, and you're making a change by going to the lean cuisine, the low sodium one, something like that. Okay, I get it. Yes, of course you're taking in less calories. You're making a change. But when you are making these changes, try to really think about the types of foods that you're putting in your body. And is this the way my body was designed? Which it wasn't.
See, now, if I looked at that from a different perspective, if I've seen a lean cuisine and I eat one and it's a small portion, I'm so hungry, well, I'm going to go eat another one until I'm full because it's not going to fill me up. So here I am. Yeah. The psychoanalysis is, well, since it's low calorie, I'm not saying it doesn't say that it's good for you, but if it says that it's, low in calories, well, I'm still hungry. I'm going to eat more because why should I gain weight if it's supposed to make me lose weight?
Well, and you're going to feel, if you feel like you didn't get the right portion size and you're not satisfied with it, then again, enter self-sabotage. You're going to make a bad decision. It's not really getting you anywhere. I mean, for most people, even with the whole foods, yes, if you're going to stop eating sugar and you're going to stop eating processed foods, potato chips, things like that, then you probably will feel a little deprived in the beginning. Again, those ingredients that go into these types of foods are not meant to help keep you full and satisfied for a period of time. It's just about convenience and portion control.
So the convenience is for people who don't want to do the cooking and all of that, because this is something that you mentioned in the last podcast. You said that if you're not preparing your meals in advance, you said you basically are going to fail.
You really will. I don't know anybody who can just do it on the fly and stand up on stage. Not that that's everybody's goal, but right. Anybody who can just do this on the fly and do it without a plan. And I always kind of go back to my sales and marketing days and back to some of the training that I went through. And one of the best tips I ever received for when I was in the corporate world was write out your day as if it's already happened. What does that look like? What does that day look like? I woke up at 7 a.m. I had breakfast. I know I've got these, I've got to get a kid to school, but what does that look like all the way? And so as you're writing out your day as if it's already happened, write out your food as if it's already happened. We all know where we're going to be at noon. Okay. We all know for the most part. I'm in my office. I'm on the go. I'm in between sales calls, or we all know where we are based on the kid's schedule at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Stop acting like this just got dropped on you. The best thing that you can do for yourself is to take those days ahead of time and plan them out as if they've already happened, plug them in. Yeah, you still may make a bad decision. It can still happen. Something can come up to throw off your day, but I can pretty much guarantee if you do that step ahead of time, it's huge.
I like the way that you just presented that, because there are people in my business who are very much calendar scheduled orientated. I mean, from the moment they get up until the moment they go to bed, they have their entire day planned out on what they want to do. And there are courses that people take. There are speakers out there who talk about having that sort of schedule. But what is really important that you just mentioned is that where is the food into that schedule? So if you think about it from what you just presented, if we were able to incorporate what our schedule is like, I mean, if you're a small business owner, entrepreneur, whatever you are, or even if a regular person at your job and you have tasks that you have to perform all day, well, that's fine, but you need to have it in your calendar. What do you think about it?
And have that food if you can. I have a lot of people that I've worked with who are out and about all day long, and it just blows my mind. Well, I never really know what's going to come up for the day. Oh, yes, you do. Most of us really do know what's going to happen. And so if you can plan ahead with bringing the food with you or a snack, one of the biggest things that I had to do when my kids were younger was remember, Kathy, you're going to be picking your kids up at 3 o'clock, right? And then you might be driving one kid one place, one the other. Why would you get in the car without a healthy snack? Why would you get in the car without a bottle of water and an apple or just something to sit there and act like that you don't have, you're sort of forced to go through a drive-through, or you're sort of forced to run into a store real quick and get something? I'm not buying it.
Mm-hmm. No, that's true. And with us, like for my wife and I, for our son Isaac, so we make his lunch when he's in school, we make his lunch for him all week long. And even when he's going out somewhere, which is a very good point that you also made. For our children, for those that are listening who have children, I'm sure you prepare your meals for your children when they're going to school, the lunchbox, the lunch bag, all of those things. You have, whether the sandwiches in there or you have the fruit, you have the drink or the water, the snacks or whatever. You're planning your children's meals for them, but you're not planning your own meal. And I think that's really, really important. We almost have to take the mindset of, if we're going to do this work for our children, and we know how important it is for our children to eat and not go hungry, then we should do the same thing for ourselves.
Exactly.
For those that are listening, I'm not trying to bash these prepared food companies out there. I'm not. So some of you may be on them. Some of you may like them. And maybe you think that this has been a benefit for you. Well, that's great. If it works for you, that's fine. We're not here to try to tell you that it's not good for you. But I think that it is important to look at the back of the ingredients and look what's in it. Because as somebody once said, that if you cannot pronounce it, maybe you shouldn't put it in your body. I don't know.
And just real quick, too, for a lot of people, they've done these programs. And then again, like I touched on last week, what's wrong with me? Why didn't the ABC XYZ program work for me? I see these people on TV, and why didn't that work for me? Well, because first of all, that's unrealistic what you see on TV. And second of all, it's because of the way that the food is made, the way that the food is processed. It's not your fault that you didn't feel satisfied or that you feel deprived. It's not sustainable.
And then it's really going to be on an economic position as well, because we already know, since it's costing more to have food at the grocery store, what it's costing at the stores, I'm assuming that it's also costing them more to prepare those food and to ship them and send them out. So those prices have gone up too. So if you're on a budget, you're probably going to say, well, I don't know if I can afford those. I don't know if I can afford another monthly shipment of that food, so I'm going to forget about it this month. So then what do you do?
Off the wagon too, and then you end up maybe repeating the program and spending twice as much money. I think if you are going from eating, Burger King or whatever fast food for lunch, and you go from, I remember when I was competing and I used to get a cheat day on every Saturday, within say 3 months of competition. And I was pretty much allowed to just do what I wanted to do. And I had my go-to items on those days. And I remember somebody saying to me going, "Oh my God, Kathy, and just think, that's how you used to eat every day." If you are going to some of these types of programs for portion control, I completely 100% get that, but understand that it's not your fault per se if it's not sustainable.
Right. And I think what's important, though, is we're talking about trying to stay motivated. I think what's really important is if you don't exceed or if you don't reach the goal for yourself today, that you just don't beat yourself up over it. So what you say in the last chapter, you go over these different things of trying to stay on track, or you talk about your tips for long-term success. And then number one, you say, stay accountable to your support system.
Right. Get that support system for sure.
Stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
Yeah, those days were just exhausting constantly. And I know everybody goes through that, where they lose the weight and then they gain it back. And then they're just waiting for the next event to get ready for. And so if you can keep it in the back of your mind that, I don't want to be getting ready every time somebody has a wedding, every time summer vacation hits. I feel personally that can be a very good motivator if you think about it, in that I stay ready so I don't have to get ready.
And then you say, remember that slip-ups are normal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the key is to not let that one bad meal turn into that roller coaster where the next thing you know, you're digging your head up from out of the sand going, or having that out of body experience going, how did I get here? Understand that those slip ups are normal. Get back onto it as soon as you can, because you're just going to have twice as much work to do.
So focus on the feeling of accomplishment. And I think that's really important, because what you said at the beginning was that when you leave the gym, how do you feel? You don't feel like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I even did this. You feel probably better than when you walked in. Is that really what you're trying to set the example of on this one?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is do focus on, again, remind yourself that you didn't push the snooze button. Remind yourself that you made a good, healthy choice when you went out to dinner, and focus on that accomplishment.
That's the next point, was be prepared for your motivation to fluctuate.
Yeah, you don't wake up every day. Again, like I had mentioned in the beginning, I don't wake up every day going, woohoo, I just can't to wait to leg day, or I just can't wait to knock out, a half-hour run or whatever it is, or, maybe I'm craving some sort of food that day. But again, I focus on how I want to feel at the end of the day, not how I want to feel right this minute.
And I think what's also important is I think this is a very profound statement that you put in the book, is that never forget that it's a lifestyle. It's not a temporary thing. Like you were just saying, some people who are in summertime, they want to look good in their bathing suit, or they're going on a cruise, or they're going on a vacation. They want to look good for that time. That's the only time that they're going to spend trying to get healthy or trying to get fit. But that's really not the way to look at it, is it?
Yeah. And, I think where we saw this the most was as far as the long term, remembering that it's a lifestyle. I know plenty of people who have plenty of motivation and are well versed like myself, and still had issues over COVID. I think that now, coming out of these last 2 years, I think that taught us even more that it is a lifestyle and things are going to come up. And I know a lot of people who were in pretty good shape, Greg, prior to the pandemic. and it happens to everyone. And so lots of people have had to revisit that and say, wow, I don't want to go through this again. So yes, it's a lifestyle. Things are always going to come up. And I'll tell you, if I had a dime for every time a client gets started with me, and boy, they're motivated, they're ready to go, and I mean, inevitably something happens. It's like I could play the lottery with these odds. Inevitably, something happens. Kids get sick. They're stuck at the house. They can't get to the gym. What happens? They feel defeated, so they might start eating poorly. Or they're dealing with an elderly parent, or something has come up with their job. Inevitably, I remind them, something is always going to come up. And this is why we go back to our why all the time. What is your why? What is going to keep you going and keep you motivated when you know inevitably something's going to try to derail you?
So that's very, very important for motivation. What is your why? That's the focus. If it's you, or if it's your health, or it's your children, or your relationships, or what that is. But the other thing is that you just mentioned, we just talked about this morning. Basically, no excuses is really what that is. You're an exercise coach as well. You're probably considered to be a life coach. I have a coach. And if I have my goals for the month versus my accomplishments, and when I show my accomplishments for the end of the month and they don't match my goals at the beginning, it's like, well, what happened? Okay, well, this happened, I got sidetracked with this. There's no excuses, because if you want to reach your goals, then that's the direction that you need to go. When you have people that come to you, well, Kathy, I know I didn't get in the gym this week, and, I had all this stuff going on. And what do you say to them? What's your response?
Well, I do like to review what they had going on. Yeah, I didn't make it this week, this and that. I have to be careful about what I say, because I don't want to sound like I'm there to lecture them or there to discipline them for not getting into the gym. I do always revisit their nutrition at home. And sometimes, yes, if you're on the go, and again, I go through that from the very beginning with my clients too, is that I'd be out of the job if everybody knew how to eat right. Mm-hmm. What we do here in the gym is extremely important, but if you cannot be in the gym, you must keep your nutrition at the forefront. It really just depends on the client. Maybe that's not the answer you're looking for, but it really does vary by the client. And what I try to do is just tighten it up. Is there anything that happened during the week where you maybe could have found that time? And actually, that's a good point too, Greg, because a lot of people think, as I did, if you don't have an hour to spend in the gym, then maybe I just shouldn't do it at all. It's understanding the smaller spurts of things that you can do. Okay, maybe you didn't get to the gym, but how about when you go to the grocery store? Or how about when you run an errand? How about you park in the back of the parking lot? How about you take the stairs somewhere? There's other things that you can do to feel healthy and to keep it going.
Right, exactly. And that's one of the things that we talk about because you, as you said, it depends on who your client is. And so we're all not the same, and we all don't receive things the same way. I was just doing one about a week ago on the motivation call about having like alligator skin, right? You got to have tough skin, especially in the real estate business. And you have to ask someone, is it okay if I say something to you that may be critical? So it's almost like you have to prepare them for what it is you're going to tell them, because if you're there to help them as a coach, then it is important to tell them kind of like the way it is. But just the point that you made, even if you're able to do 15 minutes, if you get up 15 minutes earlier and take a 15-minute walk, then you're already a step ahead of where you were the day before. And then the next day, it could be 20 minutes and then 22 minutes. And before you know it, by the end of the week, you could have 30 minutes of exercise when on Monday you never really thought about doing 30 minutes. You started off with, I'll just do 15. And I think that's progression. And I think it's important.
That's a good point, because that's exactly if you start out, instead of making it the mountain that I have to climb, I just have to walk up the driveway. It makes it a lot easier. And yes, things are going to come up to throw you off your schedule, but it kind of goes back to that planning ahead. Boy, there are very few things that get in the way of my workout. I'll tell you. And I tell my ladies, you wouldn't miss a hair appointment, would you? You have those appointments with yourself and be surprised how you won't let those fall to the wayside. As I start with my clients in the beginning, I get an idea of their personality. I get an idea of what they respond to. There's plenty of people that are never going to come back if I just sat there and lectured them. And I'm there to help them. I'm here to educate them. I'm here to motivate them, obviously. And I also tell them, you hired me to keep you accountable to the process. And I wouldn't be doing my job if I don't poke holes in maybe some of the stories you tell me.
You got to be realistic about it. Absolutely. Well, this has been great. We're going to wind it all down here for this podcast, and we hope that those that have been listening, that you've gotten something for it. I know we've talked about a lot of different things. We talked about the type of foods that you're eating and also about trying to maintain and be motivated in what you want to accomplish. And for me, as I said from the onset, that photograph that I had like 12 years ago holding that ice cream, interesting because I haven't seen that picture in a while. And I looked at it and you know what? That's going to be my motivation for me to continue, because that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to use that. And so maybe those of you that are out there, exactly. I mean, maybe there's people that are listening right now. It's like, you know what, Greg? I line myself with what you just said, because there's pictures of myself that I had years ago that I don't want to look like that. It's not about the issue of self-esteem or whatever that is. I think it's more about just the overall mental health, because there's more about physical health is also with mental health. And I'm sure you probably agree with that too, right, Kathy?
Yeah. And real quickly too, one of the things that I mentioned in the book when I talk about how you get started, one of the steps is, like I say, getting accountable, getting your attitude right, and then becoming accountable to the process. And I always encourage my clients to take pictures, and oh God, they don't want to take, you didn't even realize that you had a picture now that you're reflecting on. But I tell people to take pictures in the beginning, because even if the scale doesn't move, even if you think that something isn't happening, look back on those pictures and know that is not something that you want to go back to. And that does and can very much keep you motivated and keep you accountable to the process.
Awesome. On the last podcast, we had your information up on the platform for how people can get a hold of you, and feel free to go ahead and give out the information to them.
Thanks. So yes, my website is thetimeisnowfitness.com. And on the website, I do have information both for in-person training and for online training. There's a contact form that you can fill out, reach out to me. If anybody wants to fill that out and reach out to me, I'm happy to get them a discounted copy of the book. Again, yes, I train. I'm here in Charlotte. Doesn't matter where you're located. I can help you anywhere.
That's right. So you got to mention, though, that you heard about the book on Raised on Real Estate. It's the promo code RORE. Okay.
Promo code RORE. There you go.
We're not giving out pillows. We're only giving out a book.
Not giving out free food.
That's right. Yeah, we're not giving out free food either. I really appreciate you coming back with us. You've been a great guest. Is there anything special going on in your life right now that, we should know about? Or is there any huge challenges you got going on that happening in your life?
Well, actually, I think I'm pretty stable right now, Greg. Thank you for asking. I have a kid that just graduated from college and he's all settled down in Texas, which is so rewarding. My daughter's getting ready to go back she'll go back in the fall, start her junior year of college. And no, everything is just stable and I'm able. Life is good.
Awesome. Well, Kathy, thank you for being here again, folks. Kathy Laucius. Make sure you check out all the information up on the platform that will have all the information up there for you. And you can reach out to her. She's more than happy to talk to you about what's going on in your life and how you want to get healthy and how to get fit. For all of those out there in our community, we thank you for being part of our Raised on Real Estate community. All those around the country and outside the U.S. really appreciate it. For Raised on Real Estate, Greg Angello, take care of one another. Be kind to one another. We'll talk to you all soon. Take care.